Take two.
Hello, we're here. We're here at the Elliott Hotel. March 27th, it's around 11:45 in the morning. I'm here with Henry Alex Rubin, director of Disconnect. Hello, Henry.
Hi.
You said during your lecture last night you had questions for your audience. Ask away.
Well, I haven't shown the movie to many people, and so it's a real eye-opener for me to sit with the film and to get reactions from my audience members. And I think when you make a movie or you make anything, you want to interact with the public. That's why you make things. And so one of the great delights is to have conversations and to get reactions.
There was no trailer that I saw before the movie because it's not out yet, and it was great to see it in advance. So I sit down in the theater and there's a collage of images. I felt that the movie started intentionally out of focus, and as it gains steam, you start seeing that it's an anthology of stories that are all interconnected. And then after the first 20 minutes, after I got the characters in place and realized what was going on, then it really became a whodunit.
Yes, it's a thriller. I mean, it's three intertwining stories, but this movie is a thriller, and I like it when people tell me that it's moving, because that's what I tried very hard to do, was to trail and the emotions of all the characters and create a climax that was more about emotional violence than violence.
You started with documentaries.
I did.
And could you name some of them?
I made a movie called Who is Henry Jaglom, which is about the cult director Henry Jaglom. I produced a movie called Freestyle, which is about the art of freestyling. And I made a movie with my partner Dana about quadriplegics who play rugby in wheelchairs called Murderball.
So with that background, it seemed, and I watched the lecture last night, we taped some of the lecture, and that you made this fictional movie, but almost in a documentary style, Yes,
well, that was more because more as a function of the fact that I didn't know how to make a fiction film rather than a choice. Because I come from documentaries, that's all I know how to do. I even, I shoot commercials, and even my commercials are all shot in a documentary style. That's what I learned, and that's all I know. I didn't go to film school, and I didn't get taught how to do the classic shot, reverse shot, master, even though I know what that is. So I don't like continuity problems, I don't like relighting, so all I did was, just as in a documentary, set up 2 cameras, light everything, and let the actors go. So that means they can move anywhere they want. It means they can say whatever they want, they can improvise, they can overlap their dialogue, and I still can cut the scene together.
Can we talk a little bit more about the technical aspect, and then we're going to get back to the movie itself and reviewing it, kind of, sort of. What did you shoot it on?
This coffee's delicious.
It's not bad.
Yeah? It's like a vanilla bean.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's good to be here, though.
It is. The Elliott Hotel is nice.
I understand you usually just do a late show, and this is very early for you.
Yeah, we only go on location for special people, and you're special.
Oh, thank you.
No, you are. It was a good movie.
Cheers. Thank you for coming to location.
Excuse
Excuse me while I disconnect my phone.
It's a lot of fun to go into the TV studio and, just sit there and do we're live on Thursday nights. So we take, our movie critic calls in from Texas, and we did a whole series on Hitchcock movies.
Exciting.
So the show isn't about movies, but we like talking movies, so it's great to be here with you. What did you shoot it on?
I shot these on the Epic, which is the new red camera, and that's digital format, but I used very old lenses from the 1960s.
And was that from your documentary background, or was that because of this movie you wanted to have the old lenses?
Well, I don't like the way that digital looks very clean and sharp. I like the softness of the older lenses and the older documentary films. I also love zoom lenses because you don't have to stick to one size frame. You can, go in and out. There's a lot of mostly zoom lenses used in this film. That
And-
doesn't mean it's always zooming. It just means that you can slowly zoom in or slowly creep in and out of things that you want to look at. It's very helpful, which you know, is one of the best things to do in a documentary, is that you can go from a wide to a tight very quickly by just snap zooming in, and then you cut out the zoom so that people just see a wide and then they see a tight, and they don't see the zoom in between.
It worked because it felt like a film. It felt like it was done on film. So it had that, it didn't glare at you.
Yeah.
So that worked. And the story, too, it was a very, there's a lot of warmth despite a lot of the conflict, be it the family conflicts or the conflict of the journalist and having some kind of maybe pangs of guilt. So a lot of different emotions flowing around. Then we get to the whole aspect of cybercrime. And you have the FBI on a national level, and you have the local law enforcement on a small level, and they both seem unable to get it together or even work together.
Well, you know, this is this is so new, cybercrime, that we are still passing legislation about it, and most cities don't even have a cybercrime unit, only major cities. The law enforcement has been overwhelmed by cybercrime in the past 10 years. And, you know, when it comes to identity theft, this is something that's reported, you know, something upwards of 20,000 times a day.
A day?
A day. And so, you know, they simply, law enforcement, certainly local law enforcement, has no resources to combat this. And so it falls on the banks and their investigators to combat this, and they don't have the resources either. And when it's and so depending on the amount of money, you know, there are priorities on whose cases to investigate. If you're like this couple in this film, if you're sort of at the in between or on the lower end of the spectrum, you could be waiting for months before your case gets resolved. And in those months, if you don't have any money, I've met many people who have been really, you know, in dire straits after having lost their identity. That said, you know, that story is pulled right out of the headlines. And more people are getting their identity stolen. And Andrew Stern, who wrote the script, you know, thought that he'd found 3 different stories that really were a consequence of the modern technology that we use daily. Thematically, the movie's all about, you know, humans trying to communicate. If anything, I would say it's about the power of human relationships, you know, and how they can overcome miscommunications. But the stories, all 3 of the plots, are pulled right out of the headlines.
There was that bullying case of the woman on MySpace and the girl committed suicide. Was that the story that Andrew pulled from?
It wasn't that one specifically. There have been others, and you know, the one that I forget the one that he pulled from, something that happened in Texas possibly. I'll have to ask him again. But you know, there have been so many examples of people having false profiles and creating false identities. To either you know, create boyfriends or girlfriends or even just taunt people online, that it's pretty easy to find a story that to base our story on. Again, there's 2 other stories in the film. One is about a couple that loses their identity and go vigilante to try to get their money back. And the other story is about a journalist who wants to do a story on an underage sex performer who she finds online, and her inappropriate relationship that develops out of it. And of course, the drama in that story comes when the FBI see her story and want the information about where this kid is, and she promised to keep it safe and promised to protect the kid. So she's torn between whether or not to lose her job and tell the FBI everything she knows, or to protect the kid.
She didn't do a Judith Miller in of the New York Times. Remember, Judith went to jail.
Yes, Judith went to jail, and I mean, this is a big issue that journalists are facing. Is how far do you protect your sources? So that's one of the themes that this movie explores.
I represented Judith's brother for many years. Did you know her brother was Jimmy Miller, the Rolling Stones producer?
I didn't.
The guy who produced Brown Sugar, Gimme Shelter.
Amazing individual. I
Yeah.
didn't know, but what a family.
Yeah, so Judith Miller is the half-sister. I guess she was Bill Miller's daughter, and Jimmy is Bill Miller's son. So I just thought I'd throw that a little aside in.
Fascinating.
Your script writer, do you sit down with him and look at the script? Do you work by email? How does it work?
We sat down many times. He'd written a really brilliant script. All I did was research it further. So as I said last night, I found a lot of real people and interviewed a lot of real people. Real cybercrimes detectives, real FBI agents, real underage child porn performers, real cyberbullies. And that reinformed the script, and it just refined it and added more detail into Andrew's already very strong, sort of very compelling script. He had laid it all out, and I just made it more real.
The internet's just one big glob of information. Was this movie kind of reflecting that, you have to sift through, you have to sift through all of the TMI coming at you? I almost felt like it was a real-life version of The Matrix, of people plugging in and just kind of leaving the real world to be in this fantasy, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we all, mostly the internet and technology is incredibly useful and connects us all. It is the most exciting thing to me that, since electricity, though I wasn't around when that was invented. So I absolutely love technology, and I'm myself slightly addicted to my phone, as many of my friends are as well. I certainly didn't set out to make a movie that was anti-technology or that was preaching anything. It's just, these are three stories that were right out of the headlines, and I just wanted to make them all as realistic as possible. It does bring up questions, the movie, like how much should you be on your phone? How much time should you spend with your family? How much should your kids be on the iPad? These are all questions I think all of us are trying to figure out personally. I've heard stories of couples who don't want technology in the bedroom. I've some friends with which I play a game where we put our phones in the middle of the table, and the first person to answer the phone has to pay for the meal. So I think all of us individually are trying to figure out a relationship to our devices. But I feel like that is just one of the questions that comes out of the film. The film is not about that.
Grand Funk Railroad, remember them?
Yes.
Mark Farner.
Yeah,
He's been on the show a couple of times, and he said that he disconnects the cable. He didn't want his kids, now his kids are adult, but when they were growing up, this is from an interview 10 years ago, he said he didn't want them watching all the commercials. And he just wanted to keep them away from all that junk, and I don't disagree with him.
Yeah.
It's a little, commercials to me, you're always hitting the mute button.
Yeah.
Because there's like some law where the commercials can't be louder anymore, and they still are.
Yeah.
So it's, disconnect is more than just the cell phone, it's the TV too.
Yes, I mean, now there are commercials on the internet,
Yeah.
so you can't avoid them.
And they pop up.
They pop up.
The family life in the film, you've got these strong parents, and kids are going to do what kids are going to do, and when they go into school, you've got the loner, and you've got the peer bonding where these guys, if they weren't together, they wouldn't be getting into trouble. So it's maybe less of not having that good environment because they came from good environments. They were fed, they had a roof over their head, they didn't have to go into these directions. So this is just ordinary people going kind of, oh, I can get away with this, so I'm going to do it. I don't know, that's just what I got from it.
I mean, I think the tendency to look for a laugh is something that's very human. Cyberbullying or bullying in general, bullying has been in existence since forever, I'm pretty sure. And it starts with you just want to look for a laugh. And sometimes the laugh is at someone else's expense. In terms of that storyline, I tried to make it as natural as possible. I let those actors really improvise and get to know each other, those two guys, and I filmed them just like I was describing before, from far away, with long lenses, and I would never cut, so that I would just tell them to go again, or try this, or try that, so that they would feel very unfettered by the cameras and by the microphones and by the crew, and they could just feel free to just be themselves, And that was important to me because people who are bullies are not often, they're not, born as evil or criminal or or jerks even. They're the ones I met were normal, sweet, goofy kids looking for a laugh. And that's important to show the truth of who these kids are that can do this. And I think we've all done it at one point. We've all made a joke at the expense of someone else at some point in our lives, or had that happen to us. So it's something that's very natural. It's all around us, and I wanted to try to capture that as realistically as possible.
Now, these two young actors, did they ever approach you and say, wow, I had no idea this would have this effect on someone? As they were in character and then they came out of character, did it affect them in any way as individuals outside the movie?
Colin Ford and Aviad Bernstein, who plays the two young kids in the movie, they definitely related to this, and they've had friends, and they've had friends in their lives experience bullying, and so it wasn't alien to them. But it was very important for me that they say their language and the words in their own way, and not have to stick to a script, because I just wanted to capture truth and authenticity between these kids. In answer to your question, I don't think either of those kids have ever bullied anyone. They're both way too sweet for that. But I know that they've been around that behavior. Like I said before, I think we all have been around that.
I wasn't even accusing them. I was just wondering if it just like blew them away just to experience that kind of it's David versus Goliath in a whole other way, because with the traditional bullying is the big guy that kicks the sand on the face of the skinny guy. But now with technology, you get people who, if they want to bully, they're still seeking out weaker prey. There's 12 of us, and we can gang up on one of him, or one of her. And so it's a whole new bullying, but they still seem to be seeking out someone who might not fight back. And, this kid didn't fight back. He just imploded.
Well, he didn't fight back because he thought that he was talking to a real person. There was no one to fight back. I mean, even when I don't want to give away what happens, but he believed. It's very easy to believe that you're talking to someone real if everything seems authentic. It happened to Manti Teo, and he's a pretty sophisticated person. He believed he had a girlfriend on Facebook.
I know, but one would think in this day and age that you go beyond. Someone just added themselves to my Facebook, and I said to a friend of mine, hey, do you know who this person, because you're friends with them too, and I'm a little nervous. And it's a woman, and it's interesting. I just think they want to follow me and be anonymous. But I picked up on that right away, and I'm going to probably disconnect that person in the next 48 hours if I don't get a solid answer. So you have to be somewhat savvy that there are people out there that are just, jerks. I don't know. I know you made this as a thriller, and you maybe don't want to get preachy because I was there at the Q&A last night. But in a way, it's almost like martial arts. It's a film version of martial arts where you're using the strength of the opponent against the opponent, where the bad aspect of the internet is it's the hammer that you drop, maybe subconsciously or inadvertently, but it's there.
Yeah, I mean, the movie is, about, thematically, I think it's about people who are just having trouble communicating with each other. And the word disconnect has two meanings. One is to take something and unplug it. And the other thing is when two people are alienated, And I think it's that second meaning that the writer was more interested in. If I were to say something and you didn't understand it, we'd be alienated from each other. Or if I said something and you were offended and I didn't mean it that way, that's another disconnect. I think that is much more interesting, the disconnection between humans, whether the technology is involved or not, as a theme. And I think that's what he was going after.
In drug language, people go and seek their connection. It's funny, the movie Disconnect, about people who are into the internet. There are people who don't go on the web. and they depend on someone like me to be their connection. I have a good friend, we go to dinner, I bring the laptop, we're on it together, so that he can get his email out and whatever, but there's some people that just avoid the internet. They will use it to contact friends and have someone else do the stuff for them, but it's really funny that there's a whole cult of people out there who don't want to be plugged in. But I'm the connection to a good friend who, you know. So there are good purposes for the internet, and people smart enough to just, I don't want any part of it.
Like I said, I am very pro-technology. This is not an anti-internet movie at all. It just happens to take three, you know, if you want to make a thriller, you need something dramatic. It happens to take three movies that have to do with characters who are dealing with contemporary issues and technology in their lives. But, you know, the internet is a very exciting place, and it mostly connects us. It's just, in these three cases, in these three little thrillers, there are things that unravel that, you know, have to do with technology and the way in which people are communicating or not communicating with each other, you know?
I was just throwing that out there, but the chemistry between all the actors was very good. Everyone seemed to connect perfectly on screen, between the male hustler and the reporter, and even Jason Bateman and Grillo. They all seemed to have that kind of sizzling. You got really good performances out of all of them that worked.
Thank you. I mean, I think should I start over?
No, that was our director, but
Oh, sorry, okay.
I'm being funny.
Oh, our director.
Yeah, we have to wrap up.
Okay.
So our final question is...
about the performances, thank you.
Yeah, you did a great job with them. And they
you.
did a great job with you.
You know, all I can say is that what I learned making this movie, as you know, as I said, it was my first fiction film, was that you really have to trust the actors. You really have to, you know, I learned a lot about doing, you know, as little directing as possible and as much allowing as possible, you know?
Yeah, to wrap up, you know, the male hustler had the power over the reporter was frazzled with the FBI, and kind of, the FBI was so cold and aloof, and it all kind of worked. You really, once you get focused 10 minutes into the movie, it is a roller coaster ride, and I loved how you got the three stories and they all interconnect. It was like reading an anthology where it's three separate stories, but they're all connected, and I really like that. So thank you very much for doing a great job.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks, Britt. And could you say for us your name on visual radio?
Yes, my name is Henry Alex Rubin.
On
visual radio.
Thank you.
Would you like me to say the whole thing again?
Yeah, I'm Henry.
Sure, I'm Henry Alex Rubin on visual radio.
You've been visualized.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great to meet you.
Same here.
Actors could sort of say whatever and wander around if they wanted, to try to make it seem as natural as possible. I also feel very comfortable in the documentary world, so that's just what I resorted to when filming this. I don't know if that's interesting to anybody, but most of the movie was shot with two cameras with long lenses, as when I make documentaries I'm afraid to bother the subjects, and so I always get out of their eye line, and I usually remove the cameras and zoom in so that they don't notice the cameras and so that they stay natural. And I found myself doing that a lot, especially with the kids here, because I noticed that the less they are subconscious, the more natural the performances were. Any other questions? It's tough for me because I can't really see anybody. It just, because these lights are a bit blinding, so I'm only picking people here because I can see you guys. But does anybody else do this? Yes, ma'am.
Please make a warm
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like I heard some applause. That means you guys did enjoy it. I wonder, right, mostly. It's hard to know. It's not a laugh out loud movie. I'm particularly curious. There's a few things that we went out on a limb for. One was Jason Bateman, who I've always loved him, and I always thought he would make a great dramatic actor. And it's his first really dramatic role. So I'm wondering how people felt it. I had him grow a beard that way. It would help people accept him as a dramatic actor. But I feel like he's a brilliant actor, and I feel like he has a real career as a dramatic actor as well, as a comedian. Did people enjoy him? Did you? That's nice. Yes, sir, all the way in the back.
First of all, munchies are always good for a laugh. And I'm just curious, what went into the decision to tell two stories? I mean, I know they're linked by the technology.
Well, there were three, actually.
I know.
That's okay.
I lost count.
You were asleep only in certain segments. I like this kind of storytelling. You end up being able to say, I feel like, more than you would be able to with one story. I also felt comfortable doing this because I made a documentary called Murder Ball, where there are three intertwining stories. And so I had done that before. I had edited that before. I felt like, okay, I can do this. I feel like I put off making a fiction film for many years. I tried once and I had my heart broken, and then it's sort of like this, this thing that you just have a mixed sort of relationship with making fiction. I'm comfortable making documentaries. You can just pick up the camera and do whatever you want, But yeah, three stories. I mean, the real answer is actually that Andrew Stern, not me, the writer, had written it that way. He'd actually put 4 stories in, and I felt that it was one story too much, so I asked them to remove one story.
Well, thank you.
It seemed game. Yes, sir?
Thank you.
Oh, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Again, great movie. I found it interesting that you kind of incorporated like a bully in addition to online thing, but I wanted to ask, why did you decide to have the cop father erase the iPad rather than having him like bring thought to justice?
That's a great question.
Wait, I couldn't hear it.
She asked why did the cop father, played by Frank Grillo, why did he end up erasing this incriminating evidence and protecting his son. I mean, we talked a lot about that. I was hoping that none of the characters were one-dimensional, and he seemed really by the book, but you never know what you're going to do when you have to protect your child. Again, I've never had to do it, so I can't imagine myself in his place, but he could. Frank did, and Frank thought he would absolutely do that, no matter what his job was. And Frank brought a lot to this performance. One thing that I did, because it was my first fiction, is that I found people who had experienced all this stuff. So I interviewed cyberbullies. I interviewed kids who had bullied and who had gotten in trouble for it. I interviewed families who had lost loved ones. I interviewed journalists, and I interviewed a kid who was a former online porn performer, and all these people put in front of the cast, in case they wanted to do any kind of research themselves. And most of my cast took up on it. So that was the first thing I did, because I don't make fiction movies, I just make docs. So So that's my point of entry with all these stories, was to sort of retroactively, Andrew made them up, but I retroactively found a sort of shadow cast of real people that I could talk to about, well, so when you lost your identity, how did it go down? And did the bank do this first? Oh, they did that. And then you know, Frank Grillo spent a long time with a cybercrime detective from New York City. And these guys are amazing. And they are, you know, they know all about security, and I could tell you a lot of horrific you know, statistics about how fast you can lose security on your computer, but I would learn things as I would interview people who lost their identity. It's incredibly frustrating. It happens more than you think. And so we modeled a lot of the details, a lot of beats in the script. We tweaked and we refined the script based on all these real interviews that we did. And you know, the writer was very open to that. You know, he only felt that it was getting more realistic. I know I trailed off your question, but you talked about the cyberbully. When I sat down with a kid that had bullied another kid, I know the first thing that I noticed is he wasn't a criminal or he didn't seem like a jerk at all. He seemed kind of like a goofball who was just looking for a laugh. And that very much infused Colin Ford's performance in this film, where he was just, you know, he's just a kid looking for a laugh. You know, it's usually what we do when we're young. We're just looking for a laugh. You know, usually at someone else's expense. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that story was told in a way in which it seemed natural, and you know, he seemed like a human, not, you know, some cartoonish scoundrel. Same for all the characters. You know, I was hoping that even the Mark Jacobs character wouldn't seem all evil. You know, one of the most surprising things that came out of research was this kid in the porn house who became an online porn star told me, you know, I'm proud of my job. I'm not ashamed. I'm annoyed when people tell me, oh, your mother must be upset, and it's how I make my money. And I'm just not. I don't have any hang-ups like the rest of the world about sex. And that was a key insight into that character that Max Theria plays in the movie. Any other questions?
There's one right up there.
Yes.
Have you given consideration to exploring, like with the foundation, such as MacArthur, or with the National Office of Education, into producing something that can be utilized in education, probably at the middle school level, where kids are beginning to get into this stuff, just like there's educational curriculum on driving drunk, safe sex, etc. This is a new disease.
You talking about cyberbullying?
That, you know,
But bullying's been around forever, right? It's certainly not new. It's just we have these things now, so it multiplies everything.
but might you make some media that could be utilized?
I mean, I would just say that, you know, hopefully you make a movie that's, I mean, first and foremost, my goal was to you know, entertain and make it sort of a potboiler, you know, a thriller that would hopefully even be moving, because that's what I really love, is emotion. And so that was my first goal. But if the movie starts a conversation about, you know, that, or how much time we spend on, you know, on our phones versus looking at people in the actual eye, if it starts that conversation, then I feel very lucky, because that means we did something, you know, good. And that's all I can hope for, is that this starts a conversation. That would be just, you know, that would be really bonus. And hopefully, you know, parents, I mean, I guess it's not appropriate for kids who are 14. This is rated R, pretty much. You know. You know, I don't know. I've met some people along the way. I've only shown it to a few audiences, but I've met some mothers who've stepped out, quite moved, and said, you know, I'd love to show this to my kid. I don't know if the kid was 14, but that would be tremendous if parents actually wanted to say, hey, go see that movie. You know, that would be great. But no, I never thought of producing anything for that. I did do an anti-texting and driving campaign for AT&T 2 years ago, which was very profound, because I met a lot of people who passed away and had loved ones pass away because of sending a stupid text. And so I would interview the people, and at the end you saw the text that you know, was the loss of life. It's on the air right now. So that was, sometimes I do things like what you're talking about, very specifically aimed at, schools and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just structurally, sorry,
I'll stand right here.
I noticed that there was a brief link linking the story about identity theft to the cyberbullying, and that Mike sort of jumped into the story. Was there a similar link between the other stories?
I mean, they're all very casually linked. The writer Andrew Stern and I both are fans of, I'm sure many of you in this room have seen Krzysztof Kozłowski's movies. He's a Polish director, and he made a movie, Red, White, and Blue, and then he made a series for Polish television called Decalogue. And they were all separate stories, and everyone kind of wound in and out of each other's lives in a casual way, not a super dramatic way. I kind of liked that Andrew did that, but they all do kind of poke into each other's storylines. Oh, well, Jason Bateman is, if you remember, he is the lawyer for the. No, sir.
All right,
Was anyone, this is being selfish. I'd love to ask you guys questions. It's really hard to move people, in a movie. It's very difficult. But the movies that have always moved me, or stuck with me are the movies that moved me in the dark. And I just wonder, did anyone, I'd love to hear someone talk about their emotions. Was it, outrage, nostalgia, sadness, bleakness, hope, horror? I'd love to have any one of you just talk about, like, did you feel anything in the last 30 minutes? Eye rolls, anything, you tell me. Yes?
I was moved, I was sad, and I cried a little, I'll admit it, but I cry at Crest commercials, so.
The bar is very high.
It's very sort of depressing in that I found that I feel like we've lost the battle.
Right.
And that,
So you felt like the end was bleak and depressing?
I just mean, it made me think that our society, our culture has already lost the battle. Like there's a train, the train has already left the station. We can't really go back to where you're saying looking at each other's eyes as easily as we might hope.
So I thank you for that reaction. Did anyone have similar or even the opposite reaction where they felt something else different than that? Yes, ma'am.
My thought actually was that I felt of all of the arts, the one with Paula Patton and Alexander Skarsgård actually had a much more positive ending because you saw their relationship actually improve dramatically by the end. Even though the rest of their life was still a mess, they still seemed to find themselves again, which I felt was more positive than the story. I mean, of course, the Jason Bateman character seemed to come to his family more, but you still had the, of course, the specter of his son possibly not surviving. So that one was a little iffier.
all right, so we have time for one more question / comment.
Will it?
One last comment here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, just that it's one really great film, but a really broad message. And I think anyone's going to be able to watch this film and not have a connection to how you use the internet and the phone. If I don't start disconnecting what's going on around me in my life, my family, my friends, what do I pay attention to more than them?
Thanks for that comment. Well, and thanks to everybody for coming to this movie.
Boston, April 12th. Tell all your friends to see it, and we hope to see you all at the Somerville a month from now. Thanks to Henry. Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Do you like it? Yeah.
And we're rolling. Barbara Harris is back on visual radio.
All right.
Barbara, thank you for coming to town on my birthday.
Oh, man, we couldn't have planned it at a better time, right?
In my hometown, what do you think of our hall?
Beautiful.
The Chevalier.
Really beautiful. I couldn't see out, once we went out, they couldn't see well, it looks like a great crowd, though.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Out too far,
Yeah,
but-
I'm very impressed.
Yeah, good.
Because it's a
Beautiful
charity.
room. Yeah.
It's a charity event for, I think, the vocational.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Jack was telling us. Very good.
And I think they're doing very
good.
well. There was a crowd of people outside.
Very good. I'm
And
glad.
they adored the toys. What a set.
Thank you. Thank
Precision. I mean, absolute precision.
you.
It's,
Well, we're working on it.
but the pacing, River Deep Mountain High, was that the Tina Turner version or the Supremes version?
That was the, no,
Supremes
wasn't
and
the
Four
Supremes.
Tops did it.
Yeah, I think it's more like Darlene Loves.
Version.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's the one I listened to. I heard Tina's, it's good too.
Yeah, the Phil
And
Spector
I
thing.
Heard, yeah, and I heard the Supremes and the Four Tops.
I think, yeah,
Two of them, they did
all
it
of them together. Yeah.
Yeah, that
That-
was good too.
That hit in America, but Tina Turner's hit in England,
Uh-huh.
but not here.
And Darlene Loves hit over here too. I remember her doing it a while back.
Oh, I don't recall.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
did a good job on it.
You know what's great about Darlene, and we'll get back to you, but Darlene, every Christmas she does like the Tonight Show,
Yeah.
or the Letterman Show, one of them, and you can go on
Yeah.
YouTube and you can go year by year, and she's just terrific every time.
Oh yeah, she gets better every year. She gets better. She does a Christmas show in I think it's New York too. Every Christmas her and Ronnie Spector. I think they get together and they put on a show somewhere in the village. I've heard of a few times, but I never got to see it.
Now, do you go looking on YouTube for your material?
Oh, yeah.
Do sort of the fans put stuff up?
Yeah,
Oh,
my
so-
husband puts stuff up on me. He puts a lot of stuff up on me. But we look at YouTube all the time. They got such great stuff on there.
It's amazing.
Everybody, oh yeah. And Shaka Khan, oh my God, she's phenomenal. We look at some of hers, and now he started looking at Funkadelic. And Kenny, I wake up, because he goes to bed early sometimes, right? And then he'll get up like 12 o'clock, and I'm getting ready to go to bed. And at about 1 o'clock, I hear all this music, and he's just sitting there to my, whoa! So 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm saying, what is it? What are you doing? He's listening to Parliament Funkadelic. Talking about, these guys are great, why are you listening to this? I'm trying to sleep by now. But YouTube, oh man, phenomenal.
Well, you know, for us record collectors, I grew up memorizing what records you were putting out, and then YouTube just throws it all away because there's stuff you've never even seen on record.
Yes.
And it's like, where do they find these things?
Right. But that is so great because we get to see, we get to see some of the artists that you don't normally see. Everybody's putting their stuff up on there, I guess you're able to do that. But you get to see a lot of stuff that you don't normally see. There's a bass player in the Netherlands, I think. She lives in the Netherlands, and Kenny loves her. And this girl plays the bass like a guy, and she sings with it. Wow. Phenomenal. Little young girl, too. I said, wow.
Last time we spoke on camera, you were working with someone from overseas in France?
Yes.
Now, do you make some new records?
Well, we did 4 songs with him, and he keeps sending music, but we just got kind of busy, so we didn't do any more. But we keep in touch with him, and I don't know, we haven't spoken to him lately, but every now and then he'll send us an email, say, I got something good, and we put it together. He likes disco, because he said disco is still very big over there. So we did 4 songs with him. We completed 4 songs with him. And he put a couple out over there. That might be playing over there too, I don't know. But his name was Phil Alcastanza. And he was a keyboard player, young guy, phenomenal. Oh my God, he has such great music. Spaced out a little bit, but it was great.
Ask
really
him to put it on YouTube. Maybe we can all hear it.
Yeah, we should. We should do that.
So,
because he travels and plays too. He tried to get us to come over there to do a tour with him, but we just couldn't get the time. He wants to come for a few months, couldn't get the time.
Have the Toys toured Europe recently, or
Recently, no.
no?
No.
But it'd probably be a fun thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. England, Germany, Australia. Always. It's a lot of fun.
But you're doing, now the band you had here is a different band than backing everyone up.
No, well, we had our 3 guys. We
Oh.
have Kenny on the bass. We had our drummer, Andrew, and our guitar player, Charlie.
Okay, I knew Kenny was
So,
on the bass, so I
yeah.
thought that they were augmenting, but the keyboard player is the same for every band.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he's not really our keyboard player. We just
Okay.
used him.
Oh, so what are the names of the Toys? What's the drummer's name?
The drummer's name is Andrew Mack.
M-A-C-K?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. And the guitar player?
Charlie Rivers.
Oh, that's easy.
Andrew Mack, Charlie Rivers.
Now, when you play, who's on keyboards?
We hire different guys.
Oh, okay.
We have one guy we like in particular, and we can't get him that much because he works a lot. His name is George Tizio. And he used to play for Larry Chance and the Earls.
Oh, okay.
Now he's playing for Jay and the Americans.
Jay and the Americans, my friend Marty Coopersmith.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, they were just on my TV show.
No kidding.
Because I knew Marty back in the 80s, and I'm so happy. It's a phenomenal story how they all got back together. I don't know if you know.
No, I didn't.
Jay Black sold the name. Well,
Oh, he did. Huh?
well, he was in bankruptcy, Jay Black. So the original guys went out and auctioned, and the auctions go that the original people have first dibs.
Okay, yes. Uh-huh.
So as they told me on camera, they're not supposed to see who the other bidders are, but they looked and they saw the name, and they went and checked his van out. It was a Jay and the Americans copy band, and they hired him to be the lead singer
No kidding.
from the whole thing. So, but it's Marty and
Yeah, we saw
Sandy
them. You came that night, right?
I think so.
They were playing in, is it Elizabeth? Was it Elizabeth or Roselle? They have a promenade, and George was playing with them, so he invited us.
Oh, okay.
And we went, and they put on a good show.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Roselle. Yeah, either Linden or Roselle in Jersey.
Yeah.
Good show. They tell like their history, of how they got together and all the things they went through. Really very interesting.
And you
They
could-
stayed on for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
At least.
But they really love it. You can see they really
yeah.
have the passion.
I went
still.
up and did a song with them.
What'd you do?
I did "Stand By Me," I think it was.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. George said, he said, "Come on, you want to do something?" I said, "Okay." I ain't too shy to get up there, so I jumped up there and did "Stand By Me." They looked at me and said, "Oh, you dressed like us," because I had the same colors on. I think it was, and it was so much fun.
Now,
so much fun.
I'm not holding you to it, but I will be at the Meadowlands in New Jersey on July 30th, 31st, and August 1st.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And Margaret, you and Roxanne are all invited to the RockCon.
Yes.
But we had so much fun at the Beat Expo, and Charles said, I'm going to do a bigger one. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like it's going to be really big.
It's just intense. Spanky just walked away having a blast. She just said, wow. Because there was just so much love there. The fans coming and getting autographs, and it was just in total intensity.
Wow.
So he's doing it on a bigger level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Do you have toy shows over the summer? Can you talk about them now or not?
Yeah. If I can remember. I know let me think now.
That's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. We
I'm
just
trying
have
to
fun.
think. I write them down because my memory ain't that great.
But can we go to the Toys website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm glad I asked. And I will ask if the cookies have a website too, but it's Barbara Toys? Barbara's Toys?
Well, you can just say, put Barbara Harris the Toys, you get it. Or barbarastoys.net. That's the email address though. It's barbara@barbarastoys.net. The @ sign. barbara@barbarastoys.net.
But barbarastoys.net will bring you right to the site.
Yes.
Okay, good. And people can see the dates and.
Yes. And the cookies are on my site for now.
Oh, cool.
Until we set up a site for them.
I'll put on pause.
I sure do.
Barbara Harris, thank you so much for coming up here.
Oh man, it was our pleasure.
The keyboard player, what's Jack?
Jack Colombo.
Jack Colombo. See, I told you you're incredible. But that verifies it.
He loves us. Yeah.
But you were.
Such
The
a
band was
guy.
great.
Thank you.
When you hit out of the park, someone's going to tell you hit it out of the park. You did. No, the sound check,
That
I've
means a
had
lot.
tingles.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Barbara. I'm like, whoa. No, it was like, I got to tell you, the three of you singing happy birthday to me, and my mom and dad singing happy birthday on the telephone, it made my day. All of you, the five of you.
That's great.
I'm going to try to, it would be great to put a medley together, mom and dad and the toys. Roxanne.
Hi.
Can I call you Roxy?
Roxy's
People call you
good.
Roxy?
I love Roxy.
Right, she just for the guy with NJ, right?
I hope they're off. I think
Yeah,
they're
they
off
are.
now. I'll be right back.
The story of how you all get together.
Okay, I met Barbara, it was in 2003, at a little cafe called Little Green Leaves in Plainfield. And she had her group there, and I, come in there and listen to different bands that come in there. So let me check out Barbara, but I didn't know this was the Barbara Harris that made How Gentle Is the Rain. So
You thought it was the actress Barbara Harris.
yeah, just thought it was, just the regular group. I wasn't really paying attention to her name and stuff.
Right.
So then she saw me, and a lot of people, I'm well known in Plainfield because that's where I live. And they were telling her, you have to meet Roxy. Roxy's a singer too. So when Barbara was singing, a song, she was asking people, would anybody like to come up and sing? So she said, I have somebody out there in the audience named Roxy. Roxy, will you come up and do a song? So she had me do Proud Mary by Tina Turner. And ever since then, she said, you know what, are you singing with anybody right now? And I said, no, not at the moment. She said, I'm going to keep you in mind. She said, I might be needing a female vocalist, and I'm going to, let's exchange numbers. So she called me, I think it was during the fall of 2003. And she asked me, will I do a show with her? The first show will be in California. Matter of fact, she asked me, will I join a group? I said, yes. Still not known this is the Barbara Harris. And so when I did the first show with her, the big show in California, when I met the Drifters and the Classics and all that, and when we started doing How Gentle Is the Rain, I said, boy, she sounds like the lady that really sings this song. They said, well, she is. That's. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, I was just like so enthused because when I was a little girl, I used to walk around the house singing that song. But I never thought, it's like a blessing, I never thought that I would be singing with Barbara and, all the doo-wop groups that I used to listen to when I was a little girl, on television and the records my sisters used to play. Never thought to this day I would be doing the oldie stuff. Because I've been singing a long time. I have my own groups. I made a 12-inch club record called Got Another Love by Auntie Rocks in the 90s.
I was going to ask you.
Yes,
Okay,
me and my
good.
husband, when I was married, we had a group together. And I made a couple of,
Auntie
songs.
Rocks.
Auntie Rocks.
R-O-X?
R-O-X-I-E. Auntie. That's the name I got for my nephews and my nieces. They said, if you ever make a baby, we're going to call you Auntie Rocks, but I'd rather be called Roxy Rocks instead. But and I made a video along with the song, Got Another Love by Auntie Rocks in the 90s.
Oh, so, and you toured with?
With Barbara.
You toured with the Auntie Rocks?
Yes, mm-hmm.
Dance clubs and?
Yeah, just, like the regular clubs and,
Part 2 with Roxy. So, did you practice with the toys before the California show?
Yes.
Oh, and then when you were practicing, you realized who it was?
Yes. I was like, oh, can I do this kind of stuff? Was used to doing the R&B stuff and, my own materials. I said, oh, I hope she likes me. I hope I fit in, with the doo-wop circuit. And I haven't been with her now for 8 years, and I'm enjoying it. I love her. She's very, very nice. And when we sing her song, it's like I get chills in the inside, and I just want to cry because I used to walk around the house singing, How Gentle Is the Rain. Never thought that I would be on stage with her. It's a blessing.
She has an authoritative voice, doesn't she?
Yes, Barbara's very, very nice. I love her dearly. That's my Barbara.
And I love, and I'll conclude it, I love that you get to do some songs too.
Yes.
Barbara is so diplomatic, letting people sing.
Yes, our group is so much fun.
You know what I feel? Everybody, God gave each one of us a talent. and you're supposed to use that talent, you know. So everybody gets a chance to show their talent. That's what I feel. And,
You're the
and
best.
It works. It works out.
And it's so much fun. We are called the high energy ladies.
It's very high energy. There's no
High
doubt.
energy.
High energy ladies. They say, where do you get that energy from? We say, we just.
Just a natural thing.